The last two seasons under Bret Bielema are the best two seasons combined in the history of Illinois football. Seriously, look it up. They are 19 and 7 the last two seasons under Bret Bielema. They started last year with a lofty top 15 ranking. Never really was a factor in the Big Ten championship race. Lost badly to eventual national champion Indiana. Really bad early on in the season. But still, Illinois went 9-4. They were 5-4 in the Big Ten. And Bielema is 37-26 at Illinois. Can the Illini take the next step, though? That is the question. And that's what we're talking about today on the You Think You Know Sports podcast. We've made our way through the ACC. We're now getting into the Big Ten and the American on this podcast, which is still fairly new. You can find it anywhere that you listen to podcasts, Apple, Amazon, Spotify. There are many different places to find it. You can also find a lot more on my website, youthinkyouKnowsports.com. TikTok is where I call home. I have over 10,000 followers there on an account that's been there a little over a year. And we do deep dive analysis and research. Hope you'll come hang out with us if you enjoy this kind of content. Among those 7 losses the last 2 years includes the aforementioned loss to Indiana this past year, where they got absolutely demolished in primetime 63-10. They also lost to Ohio State. They lost to Oregon the year before, who was number 1 in the country. At that time, they went unbeaten, obviously, in the regular season before they lost to Ohio State in the playoff. Just refreshing your memory a little bit. So they've lost 3 of those games are to, three of the best teams in the country, 2 of them being national champions over the last couple years in Ohio State and Indiana, even though they didn't lose to Ohio State during their championship year. Those are 3 teams that almost everybody loses to. They beat Michigan during that. They lost to Penn State when James Franklin was there in a top 10 team. But they've also lost to Minnesota. They lost to Washington. They lost to Wisconsin. And one of the most inexplicable losses that a team had in the Big Ten last year. So the question is whether they can stay at the level of consistency to be among the Big Ten's best teams, and whether they can continue to beat most of the teams they should beat and be more competitive when they get a chance to play the Indianas and the Ohio States and the Oregons of the world, right? And they played 2 of them this year. So there are some things to like here. They were pretty average on offense last year. They averaged 27 points per game, 368 yards per game. Listen, this is a Bret Bielema offense. And I don't mean anything against Bret Bielema, but, if they were averaging 50 a game, 40 a game, that would feel wrong, right? Defensively, they allowed 25. They gave up 361 yards per game. And opponents only ran on 48% of their plays. That's 19th best in the country. I found that pretty interesting as I looked at some of the more advanced stats for the Illini. So what does this year's team look like? Well, Caden Hauser is going to be the quarterback. He was a former East Carolina starter. If you've watched him play, and I've seen him several times, watched him play North Carolina State in the opener last year in a very competitive game. Actually, a rematch of the bowl game the previous year between East Carolina and NC State. Hauser completed 66% of his passes last year, 3,300 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 6 picks. He also ran for 9 touchdowns. In his career, he's got 43 touchdown passes, 22 interceptions. He's obviously replacing Luke Altmaier. And the one thing that Illinois did really, really well under Luke Altmaier and under Bielema that has really changed things for this team is they just don't turn the ball over that much, especially in the games that they win. Altmaier had just 5 interceptions last year with 22 touchdowns, and the year before he had 22 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. So over the last 2 years, 44 touchdowns, 11 picks for Luke Altmaier. So we will see if they can get the same kind of efficiency out of Caden Hauser. Hauser's played some big games, man. I mean, they played NC State. Like I said in the opener, he threw for 366 yards and a touchdown. They played BYU. He was 25 of 42 against the Cougars last year, 285 yards, and 2 picks, no touchdowns in that game. So a couple of interceptions there. But obviously he has played in some pretty big environments for East Carolina, and now he's going to get a chance to do it for the Illini. Illinois returns 35% of its snaps. That's the 87th most in the country, 76th on offense and 96th on defense, both in the 30 percentile as far as the number of snaps they have coming back. Khalil Valentine is probably going to be the starting running back. Had 131 carries, 614 yards, 4 touchdowns. He only had 10-plus carries in 4 games. So, while this is a team that I liken a lot of times to the Bret Bielema Wisconsin teams, they certainly have not had a workhorse running back over the last couple years under Bielema, who is now entering his 6th year at Illinois, which is hard to believe. Offensively, they also bring back Hudson Clement and Colin Dixon. So they have a couple guys who caught 36 and 35 passes back for Hauser to get the ball to. So there's some things to like there. You also get Alex Perry from Florida International, who's going to help this passing game. 56 catches and 9 touchdowns last year. He had over 800 yards receiving. They lost Justin Bowick, who went to Oklahoma State. So there's some change there, but plenty of guys who know how to catch a football, right? They also have Brandon Henderson back along the offensive line. They brought in Jake Renfro, who's come in from Wisconsin. He was a former All-AAC center with Cincinnati a few years ago. He's dealt with some injuries since then. Also Christian Martin is coming in from Colorado State along the offensive line. So we know that if Illinois can protect Caton Hauser, get this running game going with Valentine and a stable of backs, that they're probably going to be able to be a really good team in the Big Ten. Now, whether they could ever be elite is a different story, but I do like Hauser a lot. Defensively, they bring back 3 defensive backs. Matthew Bailey, Jaheim Clark, and Tanner Heckel all come back on that side of the ball. But more exciting, I think, is that they got Bobby Hauck to come in. The former Montana coach who retired has now decided to come to Illinois and be the defensive coordinator. Hauck is about as successful as you can be at the FCS level. He had 6 FCS playoff appearances in 8 seasons. He had a semifinal appearance in 2025. He retired. And now all of a sudden, he is a defensive coordinator at Illinois. Here's what he said when he retired. I just haven't been enjoying it enough. And he is 151 and 43 in 2 stints at Montana, winning 8 Big Sky championships. And he reached the national title game 3 times. Continuing the quote, I want to enjoy my career and my job. A lot of the head coach stuff in current day Division I football is not enjoyable. And then in the statement when he took the job, he said, Coach Bielema is one of the great head coaches in all of football, and I am extremely excited to work for him and the student athletes and staff here at the University of Illinois. I have a great feeling about the players, the coaches, and the future of this program. I will miss Montana dearly because of the relationships and the passion I have for the football program. I hope to bring some of that to the Illini. I can't wait to get started. So, listen, when you bring in a guy who has had that kind of success, and I don't care what level you're talking about, when you bring in a dude that has won at that level and has won that way, you're changing the tune of your defense. And I cannot wait to see what this looks like for Illinois as they start playing in Hauck's defense and his vision on that side of the football. And that leads us to the schedule. So Illinois begins the season with my alma mater, UAB, on September 3rd, a Thursday night. Obviously, you would expect them to beat the Blazers. I have not gotten to the Blazers yet and breaking them down. Duke is a team I have broken down. That game is September the 12th, and it's in Champaign. So it will be very interesting to see because last year's game was all over the place. Illinois beat Duke badly, but mostly because Duke had 5 turnovers, right? I mean, that game got away from Duke because of all of the turnovers very quickly, and it ended up being a blowout. Duke is going to be a very different looking team without Darian Mensah this year. If you have not read about him heading to Miami or don't know a lot about Duke, there is a podcast up as well as videos on all my channels on the Blue Devils already. Southern Illinois is week 3. Southern Illinois, let me take that S sound off before somebody yells at me. And then we find out what Illinois is. They play in Columbus at Ohio State, September 26th. Their first road game of the year. Maybe the best team in the country in Ohio State. Obviously, we're going to learn a lot there. Purdue is in Champaign the next week, October 3rd. Then they go to Michigan State, October 10th. Have not broken down Michigan State yet, but that is a game Illinois is going to expect to win. Then you get a week off before you get Oregon at home in Champaign. I mean, listen, you get the bye week and they're coming to you. I think that's about as good of a situation as they could have. Then they go to Maryland on Halloween. Back-to-back Friday games in early November. Nebraska comes to Illinois, and then they go all the way to UCLA. That is the longest trip of the season for the Fighting Illini. Then home again for Iowa. You get that extra day's rest, although you are traveling back from the West Coast. And then you play at Northwestern to end the season. So a couple things stand out to me. First of all, they don't play a back-to-back road game all season. There are no back-to-back road games on this entire football schedule, which I think is pretty amazing. I think that is a huge benefit for Illinois as we look at the schedule. All right. I also don't hate the road games. Okay. Obviously, going to Ohio State is about as hard of a road game as you can play. Okay. Like, we can get that out of the way. We know that that's a tough one. But the other road games are Michigan State, Maryland, UCLA, and Northwestern. Now, I understand the travel with the Bruins game. We've already talked about that. Those other ones are games I think Illinois is going to expect to win and that Illinois fans are going to expect to win, right? 7 of the 12 games are at home. Indiana's not here. There's not an Indiana on this schedule, right? So you do get Oregon, you do get Ohio State, maybe the best 2 teams in the country, at least 2 of the top 5 going into the season. That's tough. But I love the no back-to-back road games. And again, the road schedule is not as bad as it could be, right? You could be going to Oregon as well. Indiana could be here again, and they're not. So I think there's a lot to like here for Illinois. I think there's hope. Bret Bielema has stabilized this program. He has made it a year in and year out. I wouldn't say Big Ten championship contender, obviously, but a team that is good enough to go out and win 8 or 9 games, maybe 10, if things fall their way. And I don't hate the schedule. I still have other teams to break down in the Big Ten. They're my first, right? So going in ABC order, somehow Illinois is first. But I am going through them, and I think Illinois could be a team, especially with Hauser at quarterback. I've seen him play. I like him. And not a lot coming back around him. But receiving core that I think can make some plays, and then a coach that has proven that he's kind of stabilized this program. I certainly think Illinois could be a team to reckon with in that 7, 8, 9 team, area of the standings in the Big Ten. Guys, you're listening to the You Think You Know Sports podcast. We're going through every team in college football right now. I hope you'll look up my website as well, youthinkyouKnowsports.com. We've got something on every team we've broken down, so I hope you'll go check those out. Also, check me out on TikTok and other social media outlets. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, wherever you can find us. So go look us up. Same username, You Think You Know Sports. It's you instead of YOU. Not correct grammar here to make it easier to type. So appreciate you guys listening, and I hope you'll listen to the next one as we continue our tour around college football this offseason.